Hello and welcome to The Ripple Impact, the podcast where we dive into those powerful ripples, those human stories that change everything. In today's bonus episode, we are recording during the iconic Henley Rowing Regatta, a pinnacle of the rowing world and British summer. We couldn't have better timing to welcome today's guest. I am absolutely thrilled to introduce to you Emily Ford. She is an Olympic bronze medalist, a trailblazing rower for Team GB, and a true embodiment of grit, growth, and team spirit. Her journey has seen her fight through injuries, historic team achievements, from the Olympics in Tokyo to the podium stage in Paris. Her journey is the kind of resilience that makes real, true waves. Emily, I am so delighted to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me, Laura. I'm very excited to be part of the podcast and have a conversation today.
Oh, it's amazing to have you here. It's such a joy. Given it, well, I'm recording live from Henley. Where are you joining us from this morning?
I am here in Holmes Chapel, but I've spent many years down in Henley. I actually have only just recently moved back up to Holmes Chapel since finishing the Olympics. So I've probably been down in Henley for the past 7 years or so.
It's a fabulous place. Are you in Henley this week? So the regatta has been on since Tuesday. Are you joining us in Henley this week?
I am. I can stop watching it on YouTube, and I'm heading down first thing tomorrow morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, to try and beat the rush to get in and to watch my brother Tom compete. So Tom's competing for Cambridge in the 8th, so it'd be cool to go and watch him compete and see how he gets on.
Fantastic. When's his race?
He starts on Saturday.
Okay, great.
We'll have a day tomorrow just to bed in and get comfy, find our deck chairs.
Amazing. Well, I'm there Saturday, so hopefully I'll see you. So it's incredible to have you here. We are so honoured for you to join the Ripple Impact podcast. We talk about human stories and the ripple impact that makes on people's lives and people's careers. But you've made ripple impacts on the Olympics, which is just incredible. Amazing journey and amazing story. I'm so excited for you to share it with our listeners and our watchers today. I would love to start right at the beginning and the early days, because I love to hear those stories of the starting point of people's journeys and what inspired you. And I know your brothers really inspired you and carving out their own path in rowing. But there must have been like a small moment, maybe even felt an invisible moment where you thought, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to be there. Can you take us back right to the very start and the very beginning?
Yeah. So I used to be extremely shy. Up until I was about 16. And I have got 3 older brothers. So I used to always, when I was at home, try and keep up with them, whatever they were doing. If they were playing football, I'd go and play football. If they were playing cricket, I'd go and play cricket. Whatever it was, I just wanted to go and get involved and try and beat them, try and join them. And I definitely think that really helped my competitive side shine through. So my 2 oldest brothers, they started rowing after their primary school teacher had told them that they were quite tall, and when they get a bit older they should go and start. So that's exactly what they did. They started competing nationally and winning national titles, and I was standing on the riverbank shouting them, and I just thought it was amazing that my brothers were going to achieve that. So they actually did inspire me. You're right, inspired me to start and go and give it a go. So when I got to about 11 or 12, I started as well at school. To be honest, I didn't like it. I fell in all the time. I used to get soaking wet, and I thought, where is the fun in this? But then I started in a crew boat, and actually I found working with other people and working as a team was what I actually really enjoyed. And that's when I started to find the passion. I started to really enjoy it. And that's when my actual career started to take off, and I started doing quite a bit better.
Yeah, that's amazing, because it always seems to me like it might be quite a lonely sport if you're sculling on your own, whereas a teams of 4s or 8s, just there must be so much camaraderie that lifts your spirit and keeps you going. Did you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely love working as a team, working with other people, and you're right, it lifts your spirits. And even when you're training on land, not just in the water, you're encouraging each other. You work together. You want them to go and succeed as much as you want yourself to succeed. And actually being able to watch other people's careers and be part of it and help them is just an amazing feeling. I do remember when I was at school, there was one of my really good friends and I were in a double, and we actually used to go off and actually just go have a chat, and then we'd come back and then we'd be like, oh my goodness, we're exhausted. So there is an element of, when you were younger especially, like an element of actually just being able to go off and be on your own just for a little bit and do your own thing. And it's definitely lonely in a single not being able to go and do that and not being able to work as a team.
Yeah. What do you think businesses could learn from teamwork from an Olympic team like you? Because Olympians are always held up as the pinnacle of achievement. What would you tell businesses that you learned about teamwork in your journey to get to the Olympics?
There's a huge thing that you can learn from teamwork. I think one of the main key things that I definitely learned was that you go through the peaks and the troughs together. You don't leave any man behind. If you're in a dip, you don't leave them because you're having a bad time either. You work together how you're going to come out of that, and you don't leave any stone unturned, because if you leave that man behind, when you come up to that peak, they're going to not want to be part of it or not want to be able to work with you. So you need to go through all those waves together, and you'll learn so much about one another that when it really matters, you've got each other's back and you know exactly how each other tick, so that when the pressure really is on, then you can actually work really well together.
Yeah, so when the pressure's on, you've got each other's back. You're not fighting for solo podium spot. You're in it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Did you always have an Olympic dream? Was that always in there from the start, or did that evolve as your career progressed?
I suffered quite badly from self-doubt and never really ever thought I was going to be an Olympic athlete. I used to watch it when I was a kid and used to watch the Olympics on the TV all the time. And I used to think, wow, that is incredible. Like, that's the most amazing thing. But never ever did I think that that would be me sat on that start line or sat on that person's TV. I all the time just wanted to be a primary school teacher when I was little. Then I went off to university, did my degree in fine art, and then continued rowing. And then it was only sort of then when I started to think, oh, maybe something here could happen. I got 2 under-23 World Championship medals whilst at university. So I thought, oh, well, when I graduate, I'll go and see what I can do, what I can achieve. So that's when I moved down to Leander Club in Henley. I rowed there to try and see what I could achieve and if I could make it into the team. And 6 months there, I was then asked to join the team. And then, now you're in, go and see what you can do and have a bit of. That's when I started to try and build my confidence a little bit and, see what I could achieve.
Yeah, Leander's got quite the reputation of Olympic rowers. So, what an amazing space to be in. And obviously, Henley, perfect. So, how did you get through that lack of confidence and that self-doubt? Because imposter syndrome is rife, right? I mean, I feel it nearly every single day. Like, how do you push through imposter syndrome and get yourself to the point where you can be achieving what you need to be achieving? You're not listening to the voices in your head that tell you that maybe I can't get there. How do you do that?
For me, it was small steps. It's not something that you're going to just be able to change overnight or change in a day. It's definitely about doing small things, small steps to try and, make yourself a bit more comfortable in what you're doing. One of our coaches, he used to always say, make the uncomfortable comfortable. Putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions, those uncomfortable mindsets more and more, so that it becomes more normal, becomes more comfortable for you. For me, I've had a few conversations with the psychologist about what I was feeling, what I was thinking, and we worked a lot through, she called it like the red brain and the blue brain. So it's all to do with one's like your, I guess, fight or flight, what are you going to do? And then the other is all your sort of negative thoughts. You could sit in this negative zone, or you can go and fight them and go and see what you can do differently. It was for me noting what they were. If those thoughts came along, what could I do with them? I can either make them positive and constructive, or I can let them be negative and I can let it wind up in my head as something else. It was trying to turn them more into this positive side and then start and believe in myself, because I've got this opportunity. If I can go and succeed, then that's fantastic. If I let it go, then it will go to somebody else. So it's about just taking opportunities, seizing them, and going, just believing in yourself, which is it can be really hard. But like I say, it's small steps. You can't just do it overnight.
Yeah, and turning those thoughts into fuel rather than turning it into something that kind of eats away at you.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. If you let it eat away at you, then it'll just break you down, and then your confidence will just get lower and lower. So then you've got to pick yourself up even further.
So when you get to the point where you're going, right, Olympics, that's the goal, Tokyo, we're going. How do you stay connected to the little wins on that journey? Because obviously it's such a long journey to then actually get to that moment and get to Tokyo. Like, talk us through the journey before the moment that everyone sees on TV, because that's often where the real hard graft starts, right? It doesn't start on race day, it starts way, way, way before. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey up to Tokyo and how you celebrate the little wins, not just the day of the Olympics?
Yeah, so actually my tummy actually turned when you mentioned Tokyo then. That was a bit strange. So Tokyo was my first Olympics, and so the first time being selected. I had a bit of a rocky journey into Tokyo. I qualified my first ever boat for the Olympics in 2019, so the year before the Tokyo Olympics, and we were given 3 weeks holiday. So went off to Copenhagen, and I was on a Lime scooter, went down a cobbled street, fell off and broke my jaw in 5 places and lost 2 teeth. So I had to have quite a big operation to get that fixed, and came home and I was in quite a bit of a mess. I wasn't able to chew for 6 weeks, and I was pretty devastated that I'd probably screwed up my chances for making it. So I decided I needed to get back to training. I needed to train really, really hard and go and see what I could achieve. And if I could get selected, then that is fantastic. But if I don't, at least I've gone and given it a go, and I've got no regrets. So that's exactly what I did. Now, it all was happening during the pandemic, so during COVID. And we then got sat on these steps outside the training centre, and they read out a team list of who was selected for the Tokyo Olympics. And very proudly, I got selected along with brother Tom. But they then told us, you've now got to go home for 3 weeks and let this virus die down. But those 3 weeks turned into, I don't know, 6 months, was it, or something ridiculous when we went into lockdown. So we managed to make it back up here, back up north, and we live on an old farm. So we've got old farm buildings. Fortunately for me, I'd got Tom alongside me that I was able to train with. But they then made the decision that they were postponing the games for a year. So we had to train on rowing machines day in, day out. And that was probably one of the biggest mental battles, was picking yourself up to go and do the same thing at home. I had Tom, and if one of us was having a bit of a down day, we'd have the other person to say, come on, let's go and do it. Because at least if you start and do something, it's more than not doing anything. So the games were postponed a year. So they were in 2021. So the selections all happened again. So we had to go through it all again. And I managed to get selected again. So that was extremely proud. And I remember pulling on the Lycra for the first time in the changing room and looking down and seeing these Olympic rings and thinking, what on earth is actually happening? So it is an incredible moment, but it is definitely a bit like a pinch me moment, like, oh, is this happening to me? We had a bit of a rocky journey in our boat in Tokyo, fair few illnesses and injuries, and we actually finished last and didn't make it to the final. So it was quite a disappointing result, and something again that I had to sort of pick myself back up again and not let it knock my confidence too much, and try and then have to build myself back up from it, and so that I could go and fight again, because I didn't want to end my career there. So yeah, it was something that I had to pick myself back up from and go and see then what else I could achieve.
So that's quite a journey, isn't it? From getting selected the first time round, then COVID hitting, initial delay, then a long delay, then having to go through the reselection again. I mean, that's a massive journey even just before you get to the games. And then family and friends can't go. Like, it must have been such an odd experience, and you'd never been before, so you had nothing to compare it against either. Tell us a little bit about actually Tokyo itself and how it worked and the feelings and the emotions. What did you go through when you were actually there? It must have been such an incredible but bizarre experience.
Yeah, like you said, I hadn't actually been to an Olympics before, so for me everything was exciting, everything was new. I was having the time of my life. We were staying in the Olympic Village, so we got to experience all of the village life. It was very strange in that you had to wear masks everywhere. And when you went in the dining hall, you had to put plastic gloves on because of touching everything. And you sat in these like perspex screens next to people so that you weren't like really actually near them. So all of that was a little bit strange. But the actual games, for me, I was quite excited about it. I remember rowing up to the start for the first time just on a practice day. And again, seeing those Olympic rings above me and having that same feeling, like my whole sort of tummy turned, everything dropped in my body, and I was suddenly like, oh, this is actually happening. This is real. So that was a strange feeling. And like you said, spectators, supporters, friends and family, they weren't able to come. So the grandstands that are usually filled with people were empty. Not a soul, apart from the coaches that were there, they sat there, but no one was able to see us. No one was able to come and shout at us and spectate for us. I did have Tom alongside me, so we were able to support one another when we were out there. So that was definitely something that I needed. We've been on sort of same journey together, so we have supported each other the whole way through. But then as soon as you finish racing, you've got 48 hours to get out of the country. So I actually wasn't able to watch Tom's race live. I was actually in the airport queuing to check in on my phone, being like, what's going on?
No. Oh no.
It was definitely, looking back on it, quite a strange games, but for me it was my first ever one. Everything was exciting and everything was new.
So you talked about when you came out down on the boat and you had the Olympic rings over your head and you had the moment of going, wow, like I'm here, this is happening. How does it feel to represent your country? I just can't imagine. Can you put it into words how it feels?
I actually don't think I can. You're just like so proud, and definitely a bit like it's happening to me. And I don't think you ever sort of really fully can explain what it feels like. It's a very, very proud moment, and I guess I feel very, very lucky that I have ever experienced it and managed to achieve that. And you definitely don't take any of it for granted, because it doesn't happen to everybody. But yeah, it is a very strange feeling.
Wow. So behind every race, there is a lot of quiet, gritty training, right? Where you're making small adjustments that actually have a much bigger impact and a much bigger ripple that actually turn into kind of game-changing results. I'd love to know kind of what surprised you, tweaks and changes and coaches' comments or moment of realization that shifted things for you. Were there these ripple moments for you, or was it a cumulative effect over the training period?
So I would say you've actually got a little bit of both, in that there's the cumulative effect where there's that constant training and you're trying to get different times and you're always striving for better, you're always wanting to get those PBs. But then there's also those small tweaks that you can make. Actually, the setup of the boat or mindset can actually help, and talking to the other athletes, working out how they're feeling, what they're doing. Very recently, we actually started having a meeting each week, and it was all to do with, we called it therapy, but it was a space where it was safe for us to talk about how we were feeling and what we needed from others, so that we could actually better support one another. And that was actually one of the big things that I thought made a massive impact into our Paris crew boat, because we knew exactly how someone was feeling in training. It wasn't just in the Olympics that we had that discussion, it was happening in training. So we knew exactly how somebody was feeling. And I would actually say that was something that had quite a big impact, because if somebody was having a rough time with an injury, for example, we knew exactly what was happening with their rehab and where they were, how long they were going to be till they were back, and what they needed from us, because they weren't necessarily doing exactly the same training as us. So they felt a bit like they were missing out, but we were able to support them because we knew exactly what was going on. And then small tweaks to the boat, to your setup, can actually make a huge impact. Like, you can move something by a tiny amount and it can feel completely different and change how much power you're putting down. So I think you've actually got a bit of both, in that you've got the accumulative training and striving for a better time and a better result, but then you've also got these small things going on that can make a massive impact.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love the thought of the weekly therapy, as you called it. So those moments of checking in and figuring out how you all doing. What was beautiful about what you said is, what did we need from each other? So not just what can I give, but what do people need from me, and how can I make sure that you're supporting the team? Because with an 8, there's so many different dynamics going on at any one moment, and how you support each other physically if someone needs to bring more, or emotionally, depending where they are in that given moment. I think that's such a wonderful lesson that people can take on, like how you build that level of support with each other and asking each other what do you need and what can I give you? I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, it definitely helped us a lot. Like you said, 8 people, it's a hell of a lot of people. So, because we've got 8 rowers and a cox, there's actually 9 of us, and a coach, there's actually 10 of us.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
of
I
course. Yeah, of course.
imagine
Of
having that
course.
many children, like, it's chaos. But yeah, it definitely helped us a lot, because getting 10 people on the same page, it can be so, so powerful. But you need to have those conversations. And often they can be difficult, especially if, someone said something that maybe you didn't like, and you've got to go and face that and let them know. But at least then they know where they stand, and you can all be on the same page. If someone needs something from somebody, they can go and ask for it in a safe space.
Yeah.
It can be very, very powerful.
Yeah, amazing. And for anyone that doesn't really know, so within a team of 8, talk us through the positions. I never know whether you count from the front or the back, and the back's the front, and it's all very confusing. Can you talk us through the different positions? Because you're kind of in the middle, aren't you? So does that mean you've got the strength?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a different role, but the fundamental part is everyone's just trying to put as much power down as possible and get that boat going as quick as possible. In the Tokyo 8 and the Paris 8, I was sat in the 3 and the 4 seat. So that is, if you start from bow, so that's that end with the ball on that's a bit sharp, if that's not on the end. You've got the bow seat and the 2 seat. So they're bow pair, and they're trying to keep those bows light and snappy and keep it light and out of the water. And then you've got the 3 seat, 4 seat, 5 and 6, which are, I guess you want to call maybe the powerhouse. They've got a bit of grunt and just pure power, just push it down. And then you've got pair, which is the stroke seat and the 7 seat. And they're setting up that rhythm to make it very easy for us all to sit in it, so that we can all do our own different jobs. And then you've got the very important cox at the front. So they're telling us what we need to do differently, where we are in a race, and they're just trying to get us down the course as quick as possible. And then they've also got steering wires, so they're steering the boat and making sure we're going as straight as possible. And then the coach, obviously very, very important. Keep us all in check and tell us what we are doing right, what we're doing wrong.
Yeah.
They're coaching us to, well, we all know what coach is, but to get us going as quick as possible.
Yeah. And you had a change of coach from Tokyo to Paris, is that right?
Yes, so the whole boat actually changed from Tokyo to Paris. So it's a new Olympic cycle. Some people may carry on, some people may stop, and then selection all starts again. You've got new people coming in, people that have stopped, and then you've got to start the selection process, I guess, from zero. So everything starts from the beginning. Like I say, coaches could also stop and do something different, and other coaches come in. The boat was actually completely different from Tokyo to Paris.
Tell us about some of the nuggets, without giving the competitive game away for Team GB. What were some of the nuggets of wisdom that were really at the centre of the coaching for Paris? Are there some things that stick with you that either they were always on repeat, or just gems of wisdom from the coach that you feel like you can share with us without giving everyone else a vantage?
I mean, there are lots of gems of wisdom. For us, I think we were getting coached every day. You're coached every sort of second, so you constantly got it. And each time you probably pick up something different. And it may actually be something that has been told to you many, many times, but it could have just been said in a different way that day, so you may pick that up better that day. And actually, that's probably quite a big lesson, really, is that if you are trying to coach somebody, or whatever it is, you're trying to get this message across to somebody, that some days it may not land. They may need it in a different way, and it may land another day. So don't give up on that. If that's something you're trying to get a message across, make sure you don't give up and try and work with them to try and get them to understand a little bit better, because it may just be that they need it in a different way.
Yeah.
Then we had a technical point, which was sort of a key thing that we needed to get ourselves going. But my sort of key wisdom, my key message was actually just to have a good time. In our Paris 8, we were having a good time. We did try to keep it as sort of lighthearted as possible, and found that we actually enjoyed training a lot more. And then you started to achieve a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, if your TikTok's anything to go by, you guys look like you had an amazing time. Some of the dances and the singing and the challenges were brilliant. Like, they were so funny. Whose idea was that?
That was actually a girl in the pair. She's very, very good at TikTok. I am terrible at TikTok, and
She can come and help me with mine.
I'm definitely not a TikToker, not one bit.
I try, but I'm in my 40s, so I mean, good luck to me.
That doesn't mean anything. It's still young.
Yeah, I love that though, because if you're bringing the joy and you're passionate and you're enjoying it, it's going to feel so much more comfortable, right? Because there must be so much pressure in the Olympics. Like, did you feel it all the time? Like, how did you protect yourself from all that pressure? The media, the interviews. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So you have definitely got to enjoy it because, like you say, there is so much pressure. I remember, so just two polar opposite sort of analogies. So in Tokyo, everyone has sort of said about all the pressure building up, and people that had been to games previously spoke to us about it all. And they said one way that they dealt with it was to have a different phone so that you only had your close family or friends that you wanted to connect with, to talk with on that phone. And you gave them that number. So then your other phone was sort of redundant in a way. You didn't need to go on it. So you'd protect yourselves from the social media and the news, all of that. You can protect yourself from it. So in Tokyo, I did do that. I had a separate phone and I had my normal phone. But then in Paris, I actually found from the Tokyo experience, from that, I found I'd isolated myself a little bit too much. I liked the way that I could go on Instagram and just sort of endlessly scroll to take my mind off it. So another way which was more helpful, I found, was you can just hide accounts on, say, Instagram or something like that. You can hide it so that then if they're going to post, you won't see the post come up. And I actually find that more useful than sort of segregating myself completely from it, because I could still go and, see what normal people were going and doing with their lives and still stay connected in that respect. But then the bits that I maybe thought were going to distract me, I could hide those from my view. So that was one way to deal with it. I guess you also want a bit of the tension to build up that excitement, build up that energy inside you, so that then because if you had no feeling, then that would be even more strange. So you want a bit of that, so that then when you're sat on that start line, you've got the energy, you've got the nerves, so that you can actually use it as a bit of fire in your belly to get going.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because there's such a balancing act between distraction that is not helpful and still feel connected and grounded and part of a community and a sense of belonging, whether that's to home or friends or family or even just where you are, because there's so much buzz around around the Olympics. When it was London, London just came alive. Like, I lived in London at that time, and it was just an incredible place to be. Like, the energy and the connection, and on the London Underground, people don't normally talk to each other when they're strangers, unless you're from Yorkshire like me, and then people talk to everyone. But in London, like, people don't talk to each other on the tube. Like, if strangers talk to you on the tube, you get a little bit worried. But when the Olympics was happening in London, everyone was talking to each other all the time. It was beautiful. It was such a sense of community, even though London is so big and has so many millions of people, locals and tourists, of course. Did it feel like that in Paris? Like, tell us about the Paris energy and the vibe.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, just quickly, we actually were staying in they call it a satellite hotel. So we weren't in the village. So we were in a separate hotel outside of the village.
Right.
Because the rowing lake was about an hour and a half drive from the village, so it was a bit too far. And we had the kayakers and canoers in our hotel. So we actually had that a bit more of a personal connection with them, and were able to have a little bit of the village vibe in that there was another sport, but it wasn't so overwhelming that it was all of these people that you were like, whoa, who do I talk to today? So that was also quite nice, in that we'd got like our own sort of village going on, but in a much smaller capacity. So that was nice. I guess we didn't then, because we were out of it, we didn't experience the games until after. So after competing, we stayed out for the following week, because we were in the first week, and then we went to go and experience the games. And I mean, it was incredible. What they put on was absolutely phenomenal. Everyone was very helpful. Everyone was very chatty. Everyone was very happy. That in itself is amazing to feel and amazing to be part of. And they just put on like extra special things that made it incredible. Like they did a parade just outside of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know if you saw any of that. where the medalists paraded down.
Yes.
But it was free to access for the general public. So they were all surrounded, like bottom of the stage was surrounded by public. And I just thought that was amazing that they were able to go and see the medalists that they may not have been able to actually get, that you can't actually get to us, but like get to in a sporting, like if they could
get to the games
or whatever it was, they were able to actually still be part of it, but in a completely different way. They did small things like that, which I just thought were, I don't know, really well thought out and just something a little bit different. But the vibe around Paris was phenomenal. It was amazing.
Yeah, your photos of that moment in front of the Eiffel Tower are fantastic. We'll definitely include those as part of this journey because they're so good with you and your brother, and the one of you as well is so good. We've danced all the way up to it, but tell us about Paris. Tell us about the race. Tell us about the feelings. Tell us about the nerves. Can you even remember the race? Because I know I've seen interviews of you before, but you said you couldn't even remember the race after it happened. Do you remember it now? Tell us all about the actual race moment. Get us into that boat with you.
So rowing up to the start line, you're warming up in a warm-up lake next to the actual racing lake. And doing that warm-up was actually very, very nerve-wracking. I think we started it off and we were all a bit shaky and we had to just have a minute and we had to say, just get it out of our systems because we need to go and do what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So we had a minute and then our warm-up actually got a lot better and then we were like, right, we're ready. I then remember getting on the start line and my tummy was in knots and you couldn't unwind it. You couldn't, that was just there. And I remember then thinking, you've just got to take one stroke and then you've got to take another one and then another one and trying to just break it down into just that one simple thing. And we had a conversation before about how we were going to think of it as that we're in our own lane. We've got that one okay bit of lane and that's all you've got to do. You've got to get from there to there as quick as you can and you're just taking one stroke at a time. So that was the mindset that I'd tried to get myself into on that start line. It was just take that one stroke and another one and another one. The actual race, like you say, I do remember pockets of it and I've watched it back many, many times now. It is sort of a whirlwind. I don't really fully remember being there. It's very strange. I do remember the crowds being so loud. Like I've never experienced them being that loud before. And I don't think in the last little bit I could really hear Henry, our Cox, that well. I think he must have been shouting to actually get any sort of sound across. It was definitely a strange race to be part of. I do also remember thinking, please just don't somebody overtake us and come forth because I would find that really difficult. And then crossing the finish line is also very, very hard to describe because you've got a sense of relief. And I know that sounds bizarre, but
no, I get that.
It's not relief because you're so glad it's over. It's that relief of you've had all this energy pent up and you've had all that pressure pent up and it's finally all over and you've actually achieved something that you're very proud of, you're very pleased with. You're also extremely exhausted and you're very, very hot.
Yeah.
And then you're then being told where to go and what to do. And you actually can't really process what's going on because you've got to try and actually get across the lake in front of the boats that are trying to go that way. And then you get off the water and you're sent down like a media channel. So there's, I can't remember how many there've been now, 7 or 8 different channel, like TV channels or radio channels. And then you're sent through and you get pulled from pillar to post to get interviewed. And to be honest, I do remember one interview and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say because I don't know what's just happened. And I hadn't had just a couple of minutes to myself to be like, and breathe. It all just sort of happened quite quickly.
Yeah.
But you're also so happy that you end up just saying something and something comes out in the end. Then you go and get changed and you put that big white suit on. Very glamorous. You get to go into like this little gazebo and get dressed. And then brother Tom was racing and his race was 20 minutes after mine. So by the time I'd done all that, he was actually coming down. So I was like, I'm going to go and try and get the end of his race. So I ran onto this pontoon and then I managed to get probably about the last 10 strokes of his race. And this cameraman says to me, "You're not meant to be on here." And I was like, I needed to see that. And Tom managed to get gold, which was incredible, absolutely amazing. Then had to go and get our medals. And the whole time I was walking onto the medal pontoon, I was actually trying to find my parents in the crowd, trying to find my friends, trying to find my family, because you just want to see them. You want to like go and see their reaction, go and be with them and share the moment with them. But like I said, there is so many people, and it is so difficult to find anybody that you end up then.
Gosh, you're making me emotional.
Well, you actually then end up crying yourself, because suddenly all of it is coming over you, and you have no real way to sort of react, and the tears do end up coming out. And so then we went and collected our medal, which was very, very special. I actually got pulled back up to the media place because they wanted to interview me and Tom. So then I actually felt very, very lucky because I was able to see Tom,
of course,
and be with one another just for that split time. And we made history as the first brother and sister to both win a medal in the same Olympic Games, in the same sport, since 1908. So it made it even more amazing. And then we did some media together, and then by the time all this had happened, actually my crew had left and they'd actually taken the boat back, and I was suddenly like, oh, what do I do? So I was like, well, I want to go and find out, go and see them.
Where have they gone?
So I ran back to the boat park, they'd already picked up my bags and everything, and they were heading to go and see their family. So then we were all able to head into, they'd got this sort of family zone. So it was behind, a bit like construction fence. It was behind some construction fence. And you went in there, and I was able to go and see my family. And actually, Matt and Helen were there too. And I remember seeing Mum and Dad for the first time, and I caught eyes with them. And we hadn't even got to each other yet. And all three of us were just in tears. Just the emotion was so, so great, so, so high. And
you're really getting me. Stop it.
That, I guess, sense of relief comes over again, because I think for me they were worried that I wasn't going to go and achieve what I wanted to achieve. They, I think, were probably just as nervous as I was that it was going to come out the right way. So we have actually, some of my other friends actually managed to get photos of it, which I can send across, of seeing Mum and Dad for the first time. And it's a moment that I will never, ever forget. Being able to see, like my old school coach, he was also out there. So I was able to see him in the family and friends zone. And then they actually were like, right, we're closing this down, and you've all got to get out. So we didn't have long, and then it was time to shuffle us off, and off we went. And I remember actually Tom, because he hadn't made it there yet, and it was already closed. He met Mum and Dad on a roundabout just down the road, because there was nowhere else for them to. There was no one else for them to be. So all this like sort of glamour that you think it actually is, and then in reality they were just on the side of the road. And
that's so funny. Oh, so you got the glory of the space, and he got the roundabout. He's so good. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they can put it into words or if you'd be able to speak for them, but how on earth did your parents feel in that moment? I mean, how did they feel?
I don't know the answer to that, how they would put it into words. But like I said, Mum and Dad actually never, not that I want them to, but they never actually said, like, well done. It was just pure tears and then hugs. And it was just, you could feel... You knew exactly what they meant. You knew exactly how they felt, but they were just so, so proud. And then Tom always laughs, because when Dad saw Tom on the roundabout, he said, "Oh, I suppose you'd be happy with that." But that's just my dad. He's he's very like, he actually is so emotional. He's always got a little tear in his eye. So for him, that was his way of dealing with it. It was like, "You've done well there, son. And I'm proud of you." But there is a message actually that one of Dad's friends had messaged him to sort of say, like, they've done well done, and all that. And Dad's response on the message is, "Very sorry, things a bit emotional here. We'll reply later." And I think that actually just sums the whole thing up, in the fact that it's like, I will reply, but I just need a moment to take it all in and to process it.
Oh, that's so lovely. Gosh, you are getting me. Yeah, you've really got me with your emotional stories. And it's funny, like, I mean, sadly, our family don't have Olympic achievements behind us, but I can imagine that's exactly what my dad would have done as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're getting me with the stories. Like, I knew this was going to be a great one, but yeah, you've really got me. So, wow. We're keeping the tears in the podcast, by the way, because it's just, yeah, I mean, God, I don't even know how you can tell these stories and not be tearful, because it's amazing. And I saw a video of you being interviewed on the podium with your teammates, and obviously you'd just seen your brother won as well, and you were so emotional. It was just so beautiful. So yeah, what an incredible story to tell.
Yeah, I actually remember that interview. I've got photos of that saved on my phone, and I look a mess because I'm just so red as well.
It's so beautiful though, because it's so raw and it's so real, and that's exactly the stories that we love on here. So I mean, incredible. Yeah, can you show us the medal? Have you got the medal?
Yeah.
Show us the medal.
So they've made them.
Fantastic.
So this
is it? I always imagine it's really heavy.
It is very heavy. In fact, it is very heavy. When I came back to Cheshire, I wanted to go and show my parents have all passed away, but I wanted to go and show them their friends that were still with us. So we went to see my nan and granddad's friend, who's, I think he's about 93, 4. And he was honestly so cute. And he held it and he was like, gosh, that's heavy. And he was the one actually that said, we're going to put it on some scales. And he got his scales out that you put it on and it goes round like this. And it was all in pounds and ounces, but it's about 500 grams. So it is very heavy. This bit here, there is part of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know if you can see that shape there.
Yes, I heard that. That is such an incredible thing that they did that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So when
you got a double part of history there.
Yeah, very, very cool. They've melted bits down from when they've repaired it and then put them into the medal. I've been doing a few school talks, and often when I tell them it's got the Eiffel Tower in, they'll be like, is it still standing? Is it still safe? Yes, it's safe. Don't worry.
That is so lovely.
Yeah, and then the back is beautiful.
Love that. Beautiful, naive, beautiful question from a child. Yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah.
It's so stunning.
So nice. And I don't know if you can tell on the bottom. You might be able to tell, but it's got the.
No, I can't see.
You can't see. I'll have to send some photos over, but it's got engraved on the bottom. It's got your event, so each person will have their own.
Oh, amazing!
And it's in French, so yeah, very, very special.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, wow, that is really special. Really, really special. You've talked before about having a bond for life with your crew that won the medal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our coach was also an Olympic medalist, and afterwards he got us all together and he did say to us, he said, well, now you're bonded for life. You've entered into that bond that will never be taken away from you. No one can take that medal from you. No one can take the journey that you've been on together away from you. Like, you've been through thick and thin together. You've been through, like I said right at the beginning, the tough times, and you've been through the high times together. So you know the ins and outs of one another. And it is definitely true. Like, we still check in with one another now and still meet up and see one another. Like, there is such a strong bond because you've been through thick and thin.
Yeah, amazing. And what does future ripples hold for you? What does the future hold from you now? What can we expect from you in the future?
So I've decided to stop and finish my career there. I always say retire, and then everyone's like, you can't retire at 30. So, but retire from sport.
Yeah, you can.
I wish. No, so I'm retiring from sport, and I am wanting to pass on my learnings and inspire children to go and achieve whatever they can achieve. And it doesn't have to be within sport, it can be within anything. I'm wanting to work with children that are struggling, whether it be illness, whether it be they're from a disadvantaged background, disability, or children that just need that extra bit of support. And I want to pass on my learnings and help them believe that they can go and achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve. So whether I do that through mentoring or through sport, I'm not entirely sure. I'm trying to sort that little bit out at the moment, but hopefully I'll get that up and running soon.
Incredible. I mean, such a beautiful thing to want to share your learning and your advice and all the wisdom that you've collected along your journey and inspire the next generation. So I think that is just incredible, and you will continue to have a huge ripple impact on those children through doing that as well. So I think that is amazing and beautiful that you can give that back to the communities and to societies. Yeah. So thank you for that, because I think that is such a beautiful thing you can do now. And talking about that, my final question for you is, what advice would you give to aspiring wave makers? So we're calling our guests the wave makers because they clearly have made waves on the industry, and you've made Olympic waves, which is incredible. What advice would you give to aspiring wave makers? So young rowers, maybe anyone that's competing at Henley Regatta this week, what would you say to them?
Well, if I was saying to the people at Henley, stay out of those booms, as they are dangerous. But on a serious note, one thing I would say is go and see what you can achieve without any fear, because it doesn't matter if things go wrong. It's about how you pick yourself up from those setbacks, and it's what you learn about yourself to make you a stronger and better person, because you'll go and achieve something much greater once you've learned that little bit of something different about yourself. And use people around you. Go and ask questions, because when I first started, I was too shy to go and do that. And it was something that I had to learn that I needed to do to go and excel, go and make me achieve something. Go and see what you can achieve without fear, and use people around you. Go and ask them questions. They've all got knowledge, and see how far you can go and see what you can achieve.
That's such beautiful advice. Let's see what you can achieve without the fear. I feel like I need that on a wall somewhere. And the power of an incredible network and a support system around you, and leaning on people for help and asking for that. I think often people don't do that. And that is such beautiful words of wisdom. So Emily Ford, thank you so much for joining the Ripple Impact podcast and for sharing the ripple moments in the training, in the early mornings, getting you to the podium, the setback, the surges, and incredible Olympic success. Your story reminds us that greatness isn't built in one way, but in thousands and thousands of quiet strokes. So Emily, deepest thanks from me for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing to talk through it, and yeah, I hope somebody else can make some waves.
They will, absolutely will, based on your beautiful story and amazing advice. So that's a wrap on this special bonus edition of the Ripple Impact. Tune in weekly for more bold voices and inspiring wavemaker guests. I'm Laura Barber. This is the Ripple Impact. We will see you next week. Emily, thank you so much. Have an incredible time at the regatta this week. Good luck to your brother for Saturday, and I hopefully will see you Saturday, but bye for now, everyone. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.